E15 podcast is your weekly dose of two moms navigating life and rewriting the motherhood blueprint.
We're here to give you our real and unfiltered opinions on life's most complex topics.
All truth, no sugarcoating. On mothers.
Hey, sis.
Hey, babe.
Welcome. I feel like I could be a little bit more playful this week, but we still got some serious shit to talk about. But how are you?
Sis, I am good. It's like any other week. There's highs and lows. I will say I took some time off social media. I spent some time with family. I stopped looking at my Instagram feed, Facebook, Twitter. It was just too much. Every few hours, it was something, one thing after the other, and it was just overwhelming for me. So I had to log off. But that did me some good. I feel rejuvenated. I feel, ready. I'm protecting my mental. How was your week?
So, for the people who are watching the live, y'all can see that my eyes fucked up. I don't even know. I bursted a blood vessel in my eye, so I'm wearing my glasses a little bit more. Other than that, it's been cool. I feel like everything that's going on in the world right now is it's hard to be okay. Like my focus is off. I've been smoking more CBD than lately. Hit me out.
What I tell you about smoking CBD?
Oh, girl, we out here now. We out here now. Big rolling. Now I'm playing. Yeah, so that's that. Send me all new strands to try. Endorse us. But that's it, sis. I've just been trying to take it day by day and doing a lot of research because I don't feel like I can keep shouting my opinion and being loud and wrong. Okay. Right. I don't want to be one of those people who just shout, and they're wrong.
Right.
Or their opinion is invalid. It's like the person who puts up a post and it's all loud and it's all in caps and you like, girl, that's an opinion that affects. And
that happened last week. Somebody was yelling about Weinstein and how he was on house arrest, but Bill Cosby was still in jail. And I'm like, ma'am, his house arrest plea was declined, but okay.
Girl, wait a minute. While we're on this topic, so Hillary got to testify?
I don't know. I don't know anything about this. You're telling me some news. I've been out the loop.
Here's a little tea, and it might be a little lukewarm. I'm not sure. Don't quote me, y'all, because I ain't really been researching it. They say that while we was in the street marching, Hillary's ass was on the stand, and they said, "No, girl, you gonna have to testify for this junk." Cause them emails was a little iffy.
Really, we still on her emails? Is that what this is about?
The emails got the secrets, so they say.
Oh, well, I'm gonna have to look this up because they like to slide stuff underneath our nose. When we're protesting or we're outraged over here, it's like, oh, squirrel. And then they're over here doing some other stuff. So
yeah, they're gonna have to get it together because please, Donald, I don't care what you're doing over there in the White House, you acting, you running amok. Let me know if I'm gonna still get my next check or not. Okay. We're still in a pandemic. Are you throwing me my extra funds or not? When are y'all gonna vote on that? Because I did not forget that you said you was gonna throw me some more money. Okay. I don't care what you support, just support my funds. Thank you.
And that's that on that.
Send me my coins.
So this week, when you brought up deep diving into what's been going on, talking about Black Lives Matter for, I think we're going into the second, almost third week. Initially, I was like, oh my gosh. And I don't mean to irritate you because, sometimes I'm annoying, right? And I'm iffy. But I just felt like, what am I going to contribute to this conversation? Because there's a lot to say, but I don't have any solutions. And I didn't feel like I had a productive response other than being upset and being frustrated, but I had no answers. And that's the one thing that I think sometimes our protesting and our outrage is missing is like, okay, so yes, we're angry, but what do we want? And how are we going to get there? What's next? And even with some of the answers that have come from the protests, I can't say that I 100% agree. However, let's give y'all the latest update. I'm sure everybody knows by now. All 4 officers were charged in the George Floyd case. All 4 of them. Derek Chauvin, the lead officer, the one who killed him, who murdered him, his bail was set at $1.25 million. Listen, I don't know who's got that kind of money to bail him out. I'm thinking he's gonna be in there for
the bondsman. They gonna get about 5% of that. What's 5% of 1.25?
Girl, don't get me the line. You know, math was not my strong suit. So then, our mayor, Washington D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser. Every time I hear her name, I think Muriel from Courage the Cowardly Dog.
She acts like it. You about to tell them that she painted some shit or whatever on the ground, but I'm gonna tell you this: the day I seen her come out of Berry Farms for the Goodman League, and you did that little guest appearance, and you gave the kid a city, but then you let them take that housing project away, bitch, and you gonna let the people be misplaced. I ain't got no kicking for you. Period. But thank you for the mural.
So she had that painted outside of the White House and turned that street to Black Lives Matter place. I will say, I did go down there. It took some time to go down there. I went running in that area. There's fences up. There's people whoever was protesting, they left their signs there. So now it's almost like a mural of just a bunch of signs that people created and left down there. We're going to talk about this later, but a lot of people were showing up just for the photo op, and that irritated the crap out of me. But it is a sign of good faith. I assume, I don't know what's going to come out of that for DC, for Washington, DC with Mayor Bowser. We shall see. And then we had, our congressional Democrats wearing kente cloths.
Sis,
I don't think I even own. Do I own any kente print? I don't think I even own any kente print. Where did they get that? Who told them that was the move?
The same people that told them to come outside and walk us back to the White House. One of their little black counterparts told them it was okay.
What were your thoughts when you saw that?
Moving right along.
Initially, I thought it was photoshopped.
Yeah, not impressed. Not impressed at all. You're going to do that and then you're going to kneel down. Bitch, if you don't go into that legislative office and pass some legislation, I don't have the time. That was doing it for the photo op. I don't have the time for that. Thank you. You could have made a statement. I did not need to see no cloth. I did not need to see you kneel for no 8 minutes. Glad you had the 8 minutes to give us. Proud of you. Glad you called all your news cameras and stuff. More proud of you. But no, ma'am.
Nancy Pelosi almost couldn't get up after that 8 minutes was over. She had to get one back.
Too long. I remember one of my jobs in high school. I was working at the campaign office, girl, in Charlottesville, and I was calling on behalf of her and asking was people going to vote. Girl, that was way back when. 05-ish. 15 years ago. Girl, wrap it the fuck up. Get up out of there. Wrap it the fuck up.
Yeah, I thought that was some photoshopped photo. I didn't believe that was real. It looked like some Wakanda Forever type stuff. It was a mess. I mean, I wish that they understood their messaging. I mean, from Hillary talking about hot sauce in her bag, them in this kente cloth, Joe Biden and you ain't really black. They just missed the mark. And sometimes I wish that they would just shut up. Like, just shut up. Just don't do it. Just be quiet.
Please.
And then we have cops in North Carolina washing people's feet.
Where do you want to start? This is a long ass line that you reading off right now. Okay, it's a long ass list. Where would you like to start? Because we're gonna unpack each one of these on tonight. So what you do, girl? Because I'm feeling like we need to start in DC.
Okay.
I want to start in DC because I feel like Bowser is part of a problem that is a global problem.
What's that?
She upholds institutionalized racism. As a black woman, she definitely upholds it. And I say this because you think and you as in the black culture thinks, you when you put somebody black in office, they will push the black agenda because as a black person, you understand what it feels like day to day not to be represented. So
Right.
you have Bowser who comes in, and what does she do? She funds the police department. They get more money in 2021. She makes sure that happens. Anybody knows Washington PD, Metropolitan PD, it's already a lot of money. You already have so many different military presence and police departments in DC. You want to fund more? Then you are literally allowing your city to be gentrified.
Mm-hmm.
And I know this firsthand because of my line of work and what I do. So when I was an account manager and I was actually going to the different places because we secure the city or whatever, I was seeing firsthand the gentrification. People didn't used to walk down by Love and all of that, and walk down by what's it called now, Arnold Gardens and all of that. People didn't walk past there. You didn't see white people living in Arnold Gardens. You didn't see that was a place $2,500 a month for a 1 bedroom for rent. You didn't see that. You didn't let that be gentrified. That was the project. People didn't want to go there, but you're allowing that in your city. And the way you're allowing it, because the way DC laws are set up is so that part of those housing has to be affordable. But I remember one building that we secured, they had a back entrance that anybody with low income had to go through the back entrance. You couldn't even go through the front entrance for the photo op. Okay,
Right.
it wasn't letting people know that that low income lives here. How HUD housing vouchers live here, so you would have to walk to the back of the building. So this is somebody who makes it look like she's doing all this great stuff in the city for her people, but you're not. DC jails overpopulated. You closing down homeless shelters. You closing down jails. Food deserts. You talking people in low income can't even get good food in the city. Homeless people running rampant. You closing down camps. That's them people who decided, you know what? I'm gonna make the best out of being homeless. I'm gonna go live in a camp city. They can't even live in a camp city.
Right.
So I'm glad that you decided to rename a street Black Lives Matter. For me, I think it's a statement. It's a perfect placement. It's right in front of the White House. You want to push all the protesters there. I get it. Make your city a little bit more clean, but that's one step of many. I feel like there's a lot of reform that needs to happen in DC. Kind of glad I don't have to be there every day anymore. But it's some shit, and she's on the chopping block as well. I'm not giving her no pass because she a black woman. I'm not.
So this is definitely not to play devil's advocate or to give her a pass, but my capstone was on gentrification in DC, and I will say a lot of it falls on her because we see the results of it under her watch, and she didn't really do much to reverse it, right? However, that ball has been rolling since Mayor Williams and Mayor Fenty. Yeah. So, we're talking a decade and a half in the works before she even thought about running. But it's one of those things where when you inherit something, you inherit everything that comes with it. So although she didn't do much to stop the ball from rolling, she inherited that gentrification issue because they had already made those it was a design a decade at least.
Yeah, because you're talking about the wharf. The wharf was in plans 10 years or so because we had one of our conferences there or whatever, and I won't say his name, but he came and he talked to our company or whatever, and he was telling us all the things he had to go to, why he wants to stay in building DC, all of this. But you got to remember, everybody loves the wharf for the fisherman market, right? You're there, you see it, it looks nice. You literally go 3 blocks over, it's still a housing project right there, right beside the police department. Make no mistake about it.
Right.
So it's like gentrification is so real. You could keep pushing people further and further and further. They're pushing them into PG County. But at the end of the day, Miriam, you got to do something. You got to do a little bit more, baby. You got to be fighting back. That girl ain't doing shit for me. I don't care if Trump got to walk that fucking block every day and see it. You ain't doing nothing for me by that because Trump Tower is a couple blocks over. What the fuck?
Somebody suggested that they named the street that Trump Tower is on Barack Obama Way. Listen, it's petty. It's not a policy. I'd prefer some policies, but I like some good petty shade too. That's pretty funny.
Definitely. So what you want to talk about after that? So we talked about Bowser.
Listen, I think we covered the kente cloth. We're good on that. What are your thoughts? And we don't need to go too much further in cops washing protesters' feet. Listen, why is it so hard to come up with policies that ensure that policing is fair instead of all of this, all of these photo ops and these feel good moments, which, yeah, okay, that's nice. It's heartwarming. You're taking pictures of washing feet. There was guardsmen doing the wobble or whatever at one of the protests. Okay, these are all cute photo ops, right? But why is it so hard to just come up with some realistic policies that are fair when it comes to policing? And this brings me to the argument about disbanding the police versus defunding police departments.
I feel like the biggest thing is each police officer takes an oath, and the oath is to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America and uphold the Constitution of their state. That's what I've been doing my research, okay? Because I'm not going to be out here spitting shit. I told you I'm not going to be out here spitting shit that I don't know about. So I've been doing my research. So Virginia Police Department, for example, their oath is to uphold the United States Constitution and uphold the Virginia Constitution. How are you upholding something that was never fair for Black people? Why is it so hard to make policy? Because the document that they uphold is not fair for Black people currently. So technically, they're doing their job. At the end of the day, how can you be mad at somebody for doing their job when their job is to uphold a document that has nothing to do with Black people? When it was written, it had nothing to do with Black people in mind because we were still property. You can amend that bitch as much as you want to, but we were still property. And even when you amended, we were still only 2/3 of a person.
Right.
For voting purposes. So let's be clear. They are doing their job.
Right.
Doing it. I think it's hard to create a policy when the document that you really need to be changing has not been changed. And it has to start there. Who's going to review that?
So what are your thoughts on disbanding police altogether?
Nah, you can't do that. There has to be someone to be here for the domestic violence calls, the murder. You got to have somebody to respond. Somebody to, what you think, sis? Because you gave me
So this literally just happened to me as I was coming home yesterday on 395, coming around the bend right before the 495 corridor.
Yeah.
Going into where the MGM and the National Harbor is. So that area, yep. So that area, as I was driving by, there was a couple arguing, and the male, the boyfriend, I'm assuming, actually swung and hit the female that he was arguing with. And as I was driving by, his fist connected to her face. I kept driving, but picked up my phone and called 911. But as I looked in my rear view, do you think somebody pulled over? Do you think anybody stopped? So that, for me, it makes me feel like, how are we going to, and we're talking about people who live in communities where it's not cool to be a snitch. So-and-so committed a murder 3 weeks ago and it's still unsolved because people are scared to say something. Do we really expect just regular everyday citizens, if we can't trust the people who are supposed to be trained to, keep the peace or take matters into their own hand without escalating situations, how do we expect everyday citizens to be responsible for that?
Yeah, I don't have on that one. I'm still really trying to dig deep into the defund versus the disband because I don't want to take a side on either. I feel like you do need to defund it a little bit, but my thing is, can you defund and reform at the same time? A lot of people say reform doesn't work because it hasn't worked for so long, but I feel like it could.
It can. You know where this happened? Camden, New Jersey.
Okay, give me tea.
Let's see. Camden, New Jersey defunded. Well, actually, they disbanded their police department, but just that particular one. So they let everybody go, and then brought in a whole new crop of police officers in Camden, New Jersey. And ever since then, the crime rate has been down, but also the incidents of police brutality have been down. They did proper training. What else does it say? They did people like neighborhood visits. So if you police a specific area, you knock door to door, introduce yourselves, or have community events where you get to know the community that you police. So ever since they did that, they were able to, and that was just like maybe 6 or 7 years ago. That we're talking recent history.
Mm-hmm.
So they disbanded their police force, but only to replace it with something that was better. Not to say they disbanded it and left it up to the citizens, because that's kind of what I feel some of this sounds like. It sounds really lazy. Also, y'all don't like the job we're doing. Y'all gonna complain and protest. All right, I got an idea for you. Since you don't like us, police yourselves. And the problem with that for me is if we police ourselves and it doesn't work out, there's more violence, more killing, more whatever, then they'll bring in a more heavily militarized police force to say, well, see, we tried it your way. You know what I mean? I just think that that's lazy of them. It can work. It definitely can work.
I don't know if the answer is to remove all of your current force and bring in new force. I don't know if that's going to work either. I'm really, really trying to figure this out. I feel like somebody I was speaking with, they said, make sure that training isn't just another box as checks, which is good. You want to reform, you want to bring in more training. Are you going to be able to use the training? How is it going to be applied? A lot of people get trained and they never use it again. Great topic. I spoke to a police officer in my hometown, and he said they were going to review their use of force policy. Okay, so you review the policy, then what?
Mm-hmm.
Is what's going to be the punishment for an officer that uses the old policy? How are you going to review to make sure that the use of force was correct, and who's going to review that?
Right.
I feel like there has to be a happy medium, and there has to be someone that comes in from the outside. So outside of the police organization, whether it be a community board, whatever, and they need to work hand in hand, and they need to figure this out, because police have to be police at the end of the day.
Right.
Like a lot of times what people do is they give police this higher authority where they're up top, like they're the Jesus of the community, and no one is above them, which is wrong. I think that's wrong. Police are there to serve and protect. How are you serving and protecting a neighborhood that you don't even know about? So what Camden did was right. You need to go in and you need to be on the ground. You need to be a part of the neighborhood. You need to know what's going on. People need to know who you are and not be scared of you.
Absolutely.
Because what you said earlier, people, the whole don't snitch mentality. Why would I go and confide into a police officer when they're not going to offer me the same protection that somebody else in the hood might offer me? I have a family. At the end of the day, you don't give a fuck about my community. You're not here every day. You come in to do one thing, and that one thing is to lock my father up, to lock my brother up, to take somebody out of the household that is feeding me. Why would I go and cooperate with you?
Absolutely. We got a comment here from Jay Medina. It says, it's difficult to just recruit a whole new force. Not enough people want that job. And that's true. That's absolutely true. Not very many people want to be military, police, firefighter, EMT. Those jobs are tough, and it's tough mentally, it's tough physically. So I can definitely agree with that. And to your point about training, sis, I talk about the military all the time because, I've been in for 15 years and that's just my lane, right? We have so many daggone trainings, so many computer-based trainings that now when you have a CBT, you just click through it. You're not even, it's like you're on autopilot as long as you get the answers right, because most of the CBTs are annual. So they don't change the answers or freshen it up or spice it up. We know the answers. So it's not like it's really sitting. A lot of the training that we have that I think does us justice are the ones that where we're like sitting and it's interactive. You play out scenarios, that type of training. If it's just going to be PowerPoints, PowerPoint slides, CBTs, or somebody just standing up there talking at you for 4 hours, but you don't really get some hands-on, discussion and feedback and participation, it's not productive. It's not a productive conversation. So you're absolutely right when it comes to that.
I agree. I don't know. I'm really on the. I don't have the answer. Oh yeah, read that comment because I saw that comment. I'm watching it on my phone as well. So comments in real time. I really like the whole live thing that we're doing right now. I like to see the engagement. We got to promote it a little bit more so people can know. So shout out every Tuesday, 9:45. About to take over these fucking Tuesdays as well, y'all.
So our homegirl Leo B. Moore, she is also a yogi. So please check her out on Instagram for all of that chakras and yoga and all of that. She is dope. She says, well, that's what the KKK did and how they infiltrated the police. Listen, supremacist groups, extremists, they infiltrate military, police departments because it's free training. That's the best place to get trained. And you get assigned weapons and all of that. That's the best place to get trained.
But let's be clear. Don't give KKK that much credit, okay? They infiltrated the police because they were the police.
Well, that's true too.
Okay. At the time, they wasn't no smart, oh, let me go in, let me do the groundwork, let me know. They were the police at the time. Okay. A lot of those men went to work 9 to 5, protect and serve the community, blase. Hey, Miss Pam. Okay, at night I'm gonna go raid Miss Pam's house and put that fucking burning ass cross in the yard. That's what they were doing. I don't never give them that much credit. When I passed them on 95, I just started laughing because at the end of the day, what y'all said and y'all disappointed because we marching in these streets and we'll keep marching until the shit has changed. So that's how I feel.
Yeah, I mean, they said that there was an uptick or there was supposed to be a resurgence of the Klan in Alabama this week because in addition to everything that's going on, Confederate statues are being removed from capitals.
Yes, fuck them, tear them down.
Confederate flags have now been banned in some of the branches of the military.
Marie, I think thank you.
That don't tread on me joint with the snake, that should be next because every time I see a Confederate flag, there's the don't tread on me right next to it. I'm like, okay. Leo also said we have to start providing better benefits and incentives to become police officers and military professionals. I do agree to an extent with that. I do think that the military has pretty good incentives. The pay could be better. I would say that. The pay scale could be adjusted. But what I would say is we have to stop penalizing people when it comes to mental health. A lot of times people don't want to, take their mental health seriously, both in the police department and in the military, because they're afraid that if that goes into their record, now they won't be able to do their job or be on the force or be in the military. And I think that we should stop penalizing people for those things because now we just have a lot of people with mental health issues in, both the police force and in the military, and you're not resolving any of those conflicts. So.
Let's talk about the Confederate statues coming down. So Virginia made a very powerful move. They was gonna take down Robert E. Lee, and somebody stopped their asses in circuit court, baby.
Wait a minute, what?
That thing can't come down yet, babe. It can't come down yet. They have to get a circuit court. Yeah, well,
is that the one that everybody's taking pictures in front of? They have the leave it up. We've already decorated it.
Marked it the fuck out. But now, so I told you I'm really rocking with Northam. He's been handling COVID well, and he's also been handling the Black Lives Matter. I mean, once you be out here with blackface on and stuff, and people remember you as doing blackface, you gotta kind of either say I'm with them or I'm against them. You gotta draw the line in the sand. Y'all know how I feel about it.
Right.
But he said today during his press conference that he still very much wants to take that statue down, and it will come down, but somebody took their ass to circuit court.
I mean, they're just delaying the process. Have fun.
But I think it's funny that you're delaying the process when Robert E. Lee, when he was alive, didn't even want the statue supposedly.
I always find that interesting that we have those statues up in the first place, because I just feel like it's an ode to treason. You know what I mean? Like, we're talking about people.
Civil War, yeah.
They were traitors, and we're honoring. I mean, I get honoring your ancestors, right? But that's all I'll say about that.
We could really say more, because I just feel the same way, because I live in, Central Virginia now. I'm not in Northern Virginia anymore, y'all. And we have Civil War battlefields here. Mm-hmm. So what the fuck you want me to do? Walk where my granddaddy slaves walk? Which I know every day when I wake up that I'm living on plantations. I know that. I don't want to keep reliving that. And then people glorify it too, like Stonewall Jackson, he fought here. Like, all right, and y'all lost the whole fucking war. Like,
I remember saying something like that when I was in high school, because I told you I transferred from Montgomery County, Maryland to Chesterfield County Public Schools. Mm-hmm. And it was night and day. I don't care what anybody says. Richmond and Chester are not Northern Virginia.
Nope.
That is the South.
Dirty South.
Right. Period. So
for the Confederacy.
They were wearing Confederate gear. I think it was called like Old Rebel or something like that. Mm-hmm. When I got down there. And I was like, but they lost. And they were like, it's not about the fact that they lost. It was
heritage, not hate. Heritage, not hate.
and they revolted. So if they can understand that and support that, but they don't understand when people get angry and riot.
Civil War,
it was a riot.
You didn't like but a big ass riot.
You didn't like what they were doing, so you revolted, you rioted, and it led to a war. What? How do you not understand?
They said, give me slaves or give me death. Let me own these folks, or I'm gonna fight against y'all.
And that's where we are now.
Need my free labor. Who gonna watch my kids? Who gonna help build my country? Gotta have them.
Listen, those are the same people that were marching on their capitals with weapons about haircuts and going back outside. Same people.
Same folks. Direct descendants.
You see what's important? Other people doing your labor. That's the message. You will riot for other people to do your labor. There we go. Mm-hmm. Look, it's adding up today. I hear it. I'm feeling it. My ancestors are talking to me, and they said,
hey, what they say? What did the ancestors say to you?
They said your ancestors are lazy.
Period. Absolutely.
So, listen, okay. Before we move on, was there anything that I missed? Because it's a changing cycle. I wouldn't even say 24 hours is the news cycle anymore. Every 5 hours, it's another update.
What's going on with the Breonna Taylor? I seen that it was her birthday. I still ain't seen no conviction.
FBI reopened the case. I don't understand why there wasn't an initial investigation when she died. Why did it take protests and outrage for them to investigate Breonna Taylor's case? I'll never understand. I think anytime that someone dies at the hands of the police, there should be some type of investigation.
You said why? You don't understand why?
I kind of understand why, but it doesn't make sense to me.
No, they ain't got no community review board. That's why. There you go. That's the reform that you need. That you're letting one or two people decide the fate of your officers once they commit a crime. You can't do that.
And it can't be internal.
Exactly. Think about it like this: we doing our podcast, and somebody was like, "Oh, Chatty Patty, she used a line of mine," and I'm like, "Okay, bet we're gonna review it. We're gonna decide if we're gonna take the episode down or whatever. We don't want to plagiarize y'all. We don't want to copy, blase, blase." So here I go. I listen to their episode. I listen to yours, and I'm like, the quote is exactly the same. But I ain't gonna take that down because we got good ratings this week. So
right.
Hope nobody nobody really cares. Hope we don't ever get sued. Okay, on to the next thing.
I mean, and you have to think of it like this, where in the George Floyd case, their medical examiner initially said, oh, it was underlying issues. It was his weight. He possibly had drugs in his system, all this other stuff. Right. Then they had a separate external examination, and it was clear what we saw was what we saw. And then the first examiner comes back and says, oh, no, that was just preliminary. I agree with the external.
But see, this the part that had me fucked up. Since I can't even do bitch something there. This is the part that had me fucked up. When people bring in a body, and I know this because when my father died, the autopsy people kept calling me that same night. And they told me what they thought that same night, right? Mm-hmm. So when the body come in, they're going to come in with a report. We found blase on this thing with this and this and this. Can you verify it? That's what they said.
Right.
They going to tell you. So you telling me when they dropped that body off, nobody said, by the way, I think it was a little police brutality. Officer such and such did he used excessive force. Make sure that shit don't come back.
Right.
Period.
Because they don't count on us being smart enough or having the means or funds to, get a second opinion.
Yeah.
That's really what it is. They don't expect us to be able to do that, to get a second opinion. Mm-hmm. So had we just went with what they said, I mean, they recently came out and was like, oh, he had COVID. What does that have to do with the price of tea in China? Okay, he had COVID. Now what? Are you trying to say that COVID was an underlying cause? Or maybe two things that are impacting the Black community at such an alarming rate happened to him at the same time. And damn, if that's not a double whammy.
Girl.
But I knew that was coming. I knew that they were going to look for something to try and, say, well, if he lost a little bit of weight, or he had asthma, or listen, if he wasn't face down on the ground with somebody's knee in his neck, do you think the charges will stick? That's the other thing. So they're going for second degree.
Which that means they have to prove.
Yes. See, it doesn't mean that it was premeditated, but it does mean that it was intentional.
See, but that part, that scares me. That you got to prove that it was intentional. That scares me. That to me sounds like he could potentially walk. And I only say this because, I mean, how do you prove that? Who is going to sit there and say, I mean, who would they bring on stand to testify that it wasn't intentional? I mean, he's going to probably get on stand and talk in his own defense. And this is going to be his statement. I was going through my routine stop. I got a call. It was counterfeit. I tried to restrain him. He was moving. He was a bigger guy. I had to put my knee in his back to restrain him. My knee slipped on his neck. I was trying to cuff him, trying to keep him down. It was a struggle. I can see it play out. I can see it play out.
Oh, here's what I would say he has working against him. George Floyd was already in cuffs by the start of that video. He was already in handcuffs. So when you say you were trying to restrain him to put the cuffs on, well, now the cuffs are on, but your knee is still in his neck. A nurse identified herself as a nurse and said, hey, check his pulse numerous times. I'm a nurse. I work at such a place. Check his pulse, please. He is no longer breathing. He's no longer breathing. Two other people in the background, the young lady who took the video, plus some other guy yelling, hey, he is no longer breathing. You are killing him. And then there was, I didn't watch the entire video. I've seen, at this point, I tried not to watch it at all, but I have now cotton clips in the news, and you just can't avoid it. But there were other people, I think there was an EMT or someone who asked him to move, and he was still on his neck. So at that point, when you're talking about almost 10 minutes in with multiple people, telling you that he is no longer breathing and you refuse to move, and he is at this point handcuffed, and if you felt like he was still a threat, you still had 3 other officers.
I don't know, sis. I'm just, if history is going to repeat itself, then I don't trust our justice comes to making sure that people who kill Black people are convicted. I don't. And even if he is convicted, I don't see him getting a long sentence.
Yeah. I think that the max for that is 25 years, if I'm not mistaken. What I will say is, unless they get a change of venue, his jurors, the jury, I'm sure will have by this point be impacted, and I'm sure they'll hear all sides, but I will say I think that they probably
can't get a man no jury trial because it's not fair. So at the end of the day, I feel like he still deserves a fair trial.
Mm-hmm.
But you need to make sure that fair trial results in a conviction at the end of the day. He still needs to. He can't have a jury trial. They would hang him. His lawyer would never do that, and he really needs to just plead guilty.
They may request like a change of venue and try and get him.
You can't. How you gonna get a change of venue when this is national news? Regardless where you put him, people know it.
So Amadou Diallo, he was murdered in New York City back in the 90s. Mm-hmm. I think it was like 40 some shots. 40 shots.
40 shots with who?
Yes, they shot him. They shot him 40 times.
Who shot him?
The police officers. I think it was 3 police officers caught him. He was like standing in between a door and his apartment, so he was cornered. They were plainclothes officers, so he probably didn't even know to stop for them because they weren't wearing a police uniform. He was reaching for his wallet, but they thought he was reaching for a gun, and they shot him 40 times. That made national news. His mother came from I can't remember what country she was from. But anyway, she marched with Al Sharpton, and everybody was a part of this. His lawyer filed a change of venue. They tried the case upstate, and those officers walked. I can't remember what degree or what they tried him for, but all the officers walked. So I don't know. He may have a chance if he requests the change of venue. He may. So
shut me up, girl. I don't even know. I ain't got no words. Shut me up.
What I want to know is, will the kids be all right? Because on both sides, I'm not just talking about Black kids. I'm talking about all the children, because all the kids have been seeing everything that's been going on. And like I said, I think I said this last episode, we've had life-changing events, but we've had them in increments. We had Y2K. We had the O.J. Simpson trial. We had, what was the 90s? Can't we all just get along? Another police brutality case. Rodney King. Thank you. We had Rodney King. We had Amadou Diallo, but we had 9/11, but all of these things were years apart, or there was some space in between. Our children have suffered a pandemic, being out of school, isolation, COVID, just the world on fire, Australia burning, like racial tensions, watching people get murdered. Because at this point, if your children have access to social media at any point, I'm sure they've seen something, and there's children there are white children who are home with their parents, and their parents are watching the news cycle because, a lot of people are still social distancing, still working from home, and they're, for the first time, hearing their parents' true views on Black people. And there's been a wave of children on social media, especially TikTok, recording their parents' reactions to the news and some of the racist comments. And a lot of these kids are so surprised. They didn't know that their parents held those views. And some of them are arguing with their parents. Some of them are getting disowned by their parents. I've seen that as well. It's a strange time to be alive.
Very strange. I don't know if the kids will be okay. I feel like it's still too early to tell. I do like to believe that all kids are good, even with those racist ass parents that they live with. All kids are good, and because they go to school and it's mixed, I mean, your kids play with the opposite race every day and then day in and day out. To them, when they're little, they don't really know how to process it yet. Anyway, they don't understand that, oh, we're different, because they start to see little bits of differences. And kids like to say, oh, well, this person said they had this and this person said they had that, but I don't know. And I feel like any good parent right now, like, I understand you want your kids to be a part of history. I kind of feel like I don't want my kids marching.
There we go. Let's talk about it. Sure don't.
So I seen a video of the little girl, and they all making sure that they out and about, and they recording her, and she's like, "No justice, no peace." Da, 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 da. Like, she in the streets, like she hot. Like, you would have thought it was the second line, right? I just feel bad for that baby. I do, because I feel like she was a little too young. Now, when they start to get 9, 10, 8, 9, 10, you can start having a more valid conversation with them.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Johnny's white, and we go and we play with them and XYZ. But the reason why you really can't go to Johnny's house is because Johnny's parents really don't like you guys being friends. There's people who's not gonna like you based off the color of their skin, and there's nothing that you can do about it.
Right.
You can try to change their parents' view, but their parents' view is what their view is. All that we can tell you to is have an open heart and to love people, and not to have that talk with them. You got to start having that talk with them. But I feel like they can comprehend it more. We're marching because we don't want you to be the next headline, or we're marching because we want you to understand what our people had to go through. But a 4 or 5-year-old just mimicking their parent, I feel like it's a little too young. I'm actually on the fence about taking the girls to the rally with me on Thursday. I want them there. For
right.
What? First of all, it's gonna be hot. My kids is vocal as hell, so they gonna be out and about. They gonna think it's playtime. All these people, finally, we ain't been able to see people in months. Like, let's go play. We're not here for that. I just don't know.
So, okay, so 2 things. All right, when Freddie Gray happened, when Freddie Gray was killed, it was on the heels or around the same time as the Tamir Rice incident, and then there was Michael Brown and Trayvon Martin. And my son saw me watching the news and saw all of these stories, so he had questions. He asked me why the police were doing this. Mm-hmm. So I had an opportunity to take him and my daughter. I think he may have been 8 and she was 6. I did take them to one of the protests, but not for them to protest. They talked to protest organizers. They talked to Torrey, who is a journalist. He's popular with like MTV and BET and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. And then I also took them to talk to a friend of mine who is a Black police officer, so that I wasn't forming their opinion for them. I presented them with 2 sides of the coin, and then allow them to come to their own conclusion about what happened, why people are protesting, and what they think about it. Although I would love for them to think like me, I don't want to force my thoughts on my children. I want them to always have their own opinion. I'm always going to present them the information. I'll present them both sides, even if I don't agree with the other side. But I want them to have, I want there to be objectivity, so that they can make their own decision as to what they want to do. Now, last week I told you about Black women being the mules and carrying the weight, and we're always marching and protesting and all of that. The problem I have with seeing these young girls protesting is the same problem that I have with the paintings. There's some paintings of little girls and Black girls in ballerina costumes with AK-47s, and there's one painting that was going around of a little Black girl who she looked like a vampire, and she had just eaten the head off of a cop. And I'm just thinking, like, why are we doing this to our girls. I mean, we shouldn't do that to any of our children. Our children should be protected. But I'm just kind of tired of seeing women, and especially our little girls, being boosted up as the organizers of these movements, and being the ones that's carrying the weight, and having men tell us that we need to do this. This is our role. This is our job. I've yet to see a little black boy out there on the front lines with a bullhorn doing the same thing that little black girl was doing.
But do you think, so devil's advocate, do you think we protect our black sons from doing it because we know that they are more susceptible of being the next headline?
I don't know. And it's possible.
I feel like it's like protect them at all costs.
But I feel like it should go both ways. I feel like we should, especially our children in general, I think it should go both ways. I don't like it. I get it. I understand it. I will never criticize another parent's choice in doing that. But I want to protect my daughter and allow her to decide later in life if that's the mantle she wants to pick up. I don't want to lay that on her shoulders that baby looked 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah, she was young. So that part, like my cousin took her kids to the protest, and they're perfect age. I feel like they're perfect age. They know what they were doing. They had their signs. Her and her husband were there to protect them. For me, I don't know how I would feel about my little girl Avery grabbing the bullhorn, doing the rally chant. I don't know if I would be okay with it. I don't know. Right. I'm on the fence.
I just don't like the imaging of it. I've been arguing that from the beginning, even before all of this was happening. I don't like the imaging of it. I don't want our daughters. I don't want our sons out there either. But I especially don't want our little girls who are already, the issue I have is our little girls are already objectified, adultified. They don't get the opportunity to be children. The same can be said for young boys, but statistically speaking, young girls are at a greater risk of that. And statistically speaking, young boys are at a greater risk of being shot by the police. Why don't we leave them at home or put them on the sidelines so that if something pops off, our babies are not getting ran over and stampeded, or, you know what I mean? Getting tear gassed, because that has happened at some of these rallies, at some of these protests. So I just don't agree with it. I'm not judging anybody if that's what you decide to do with your children, but it's not for me. And it goes back to the argument that, grown men were saying that the young girl who recorded the video should have done more. She needed to jump in. And my argument is she's a teenager. She's a young girl. She's 2 times smaller than the police officer and the man on the ground. If she would have jumped in, not only would she probably be dead, right, she'd still be dead, and there'd be no evidence of what happened. Exactly. So, and it would be painted as, oh, she was trying to attack the cop, as opposed to, hey, she was trying to help the victim. And then people will be like, well, what was she thinking? Why'd she jump in that? And men were disputing me down. Well, I don't care how old she is. I'm teaching my daughters that they need to stand up. Why are you doing that? Yeah. I mean, to each their own, but I want my daughter to learn self-defense. And if she's capable of stepping in, yes, but I want her to know her surroundings and her audience, and know when to and when not to. And unfortunately, I don't think that would have played out for anybody in a good way. It just wouldn't have. So,
all right, sis, wrap this on up.
Well, it's that time. It's our favorite time of the show.
Unpopular opinion, girl.
Yes. Do you have an unpopular opinion this week?
I do have an unpopular opinion.
Okay, so I don't. So I'm just going to throw this out there so that you can close us out, because I really don't have an unpopular opinion this week. It's just a frustration, and I spoke about it earlier. I did go to Black Lives Matter Plaza, and I saw all these people, and it wasn't just that. There were videos online of people getting dolled up and using the protests and the rallies as a damn photo shoot. as a photo op. There was a woman who was in DC. She asked somebody if she could hold the drill as they were boarding up the windows to protect the storefronts. She asked somebody to if she could hold their drill, and had her friend take a picture. There was another woman, I think she was in New York, had a full floor-length gown on and waited until people were walking by and stepped in the street and put her fist up so she could take a picture. When I went down to Black Lives Matter Plaza, I did take a picture of the street sign. I did not take a picture of myself. I just didn't feel like, if I'm not there to protest, if I'm not there like with some energy behind it or some reason, what am I taking a picture for of myself? What am I taking a selfie for? You know what I mean? There were so many people. They were selling t-shirts and water bottles. I mean, it didn't feel right. And so I just want to say, you know, for those of you who are using this as a photo op, okay, I'm not going to judge you. Do what you do. I saw a lot of it, but it is what it is. All I ask is the same energy that you took into making that music video, because there was a guy out there making his music video, doing your photo shoots and all of that. Put that same energy into looking into your local elections, knowing what platforms the candidates stand on, making sure that you're supporting the legislation that's going to help bring about change, and not just out here taking pictures so 10 years from now you can say, oh yeah, I was a part of that, or yeah, I was marching, knowing good and well you came on an off day. And that's all I got.
Oh, well, that's a good one, sis, because a lot of people, that's what they do. They want to be around for the photo, they want to be around for the interview, but they're not really going to put in that good work. I think my unpopular opinion is right along the same lines of that. So, everybody is not a frontline activist, period. Okay. A lot of people want to be like, oh, you posted it, so you got to speak up, you got to speak out. Everybody not no activist. I'm personally not an activist, okay? I'm just a little black girl from rural ass Virginia with a big ass opinion, okay? And I'm gonna make sure that you hear my opinion by any means necessary. That's all that is. And I'm gonna make sure that if you tell me you're gonna do something, I'm gonna follow up and I'm gonna make you stand on it. That's the principles. You know, I live by those principles in everyday life. But I don't say that I'm anybody's activist, and I don't want to be anybody's activist. I feel like I don't have to do that. So there is other jobs for people out here besides being out, being vocal, and all of that. Figure out what works best for you. If your job is literally just posting a status that says, I'm black and I'm proud, then that's all you have to do. Don't be out here arguing with people and being loud and wrong.
Right. There's that.
But your opinion is not always facts. I'm really tired of these loud and wrong ass people. And I'm going to have to start calling them out. That's it. That's all I got.
All right, y'all. Well, that's our show. If you love us like I know you do, make sure you're following us. We're on Apple Podcasts, we're on Spotify and iHeartRadio. So subscribe. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook. That's On Muvas Podcast. ONMUVAS podcast. We record now on Tuesday evenings at 9:45, and we do a Facebook Live at that time. So if you want to see us live, you want to give us some of your feedback as we're having these discussions, we will read your comments as we progress through the show. And if you're catching us afterwards, just make sure that you subscribe on all platforms and follow us on all platforms. And we are also on YouTube. Ari, how can the people follow you, sis?
You already know it's ARILAWAN _ That's Ari Lawan _ on IG and Twitter.
And I am Chatty Patty DC on all social media. Make sure you are keeping in touch with us as we drop each and every Wednesday.
All right, you already know Wednesdays belong to the mothers. Tuesday is the takeover. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, all that.